And how does it taste? Oh my God. That looks great. Jambon persil, but let's make it pasta? Yeah, I think you want to learn how to make that, don't you? Oh, and those crispy frizzled leeks that you see in restaurants all over the world? Yeah, I'm going to show you how to make that too. Stick around. Let's get to it. So the first thing that I want to get started is my leek garnish. So it's pretty simple. I just make a cut where the light green turns to a little bit of darker green. And then I cut that piece in half, and I'm lucky here because it's just about perfect. I've got about 3.5 inches on each side, which is absolutely perfect. Then I take this piece right here and I cut that in half. And what I do is I just unfold this and I take the outer piece and I set the core aside. And I do the same thing with this piece. So it's kind of like a stack of 5 or 6 playing cards. And then I lay it down really flat and I take a really, really sharp knife. Well, let me make sure that knife is really sharp. And I take a really, really sharp knife. Oh, I have a little piece of a core in there that's getting in the way. And I lay these down and I make some really, really thin cuts. Now, when you want to turn something like this super crispy, traditionally what you do, and we have some really, really thin pieces there. Traditionally, what you want to do, I'm going to do the other one here, is you want to fry it twice. Once in cooler oil, like at 300 degrees to evaporate the moisture and soften the leek or the onion or the shallot or the potato. But the other way you could do it is just start it in cold oil. And as the oil comes up in temperature, it takes the food through that soft cook stage. And then by the time it gets up to 375, it's starting to brown. And I just repeat with the other side of that initial piece that I cut. I just take out the core. And again, I have those 6-7 sections of the leek. And I just cut that like so. So I have about 2.5 cups of vegetable oil in there. I'm going to put the leeks in. And I'm going to put this on a very low, well, not a very low, on a low burner and gradually let it come up to about 375 degrees. I'm guessing that'll take about 20 to 25 minutes. I'll show you what it looks like while it's cooking. I want to cook the pasta too. Now, I like to use ditali, which are little tiny tubes. These are little rings from the supermarket. It was all they had. It's what you're most likely to encounter. But you can use little elbow macaroni. You can use little shells are great. Any kind of small pasta that's appropriate to serve with a pea, because I like them to be small in size so that it sits right on the plate, especially for this recipe. Now, for the ham, you can take deli ham like this. This is just conventional deli ham from the supermarket, and just ask them to cut it about 1/4 inch thick. You're going to want about, 8 to 12 ounces for this, and you would just cut it in strips and then cut it into tiny little cubes. If you happen to like aged hams, European hams, American naturally cured hams, all you have to do is cut it into those 1/4 inch slices and then cut it into dice. Mine is smaller than a pea because I want it to be nice and soft. So I'm gonna use this beautiful cured country ham. Gotta cut our parsley. This is a medium-sized bunch. I'm just gonna roll this up and just start cutting. You don't need to annihilate it, but for this recipe, yeah, I do want it minced. I don't want any big leaves in there. So I have my parsley in the bowl. I'm gonna add my country ham. Let's slice up some scallions. Again, I'm gonna cut them thin. And I want, I don't know, most of that bunch there. And I like mostly green, so it's a softer flavor. And I'm gonna put that in my bowl. You can see here the leeks are starting to cook in that oil. The more I stir it, the more I release water from the leeks. That's what that bubbling is. The bubbling is not the leeks frying. The bubbling is the water coming out of them. Maybe a little hard to tell here, but it's actually quieted down. And in a very short amount of time, you can see when I stir it, I don't get more bubbles per se. It's basically the same amount. It's starting to lose its water. Once the water is gone, the leeks will start to brown. And the reason for that is simple. You can't brown anything in the presence of water. It just doesn't work. Now you can see the leeks in the pot are getting really quiet. These are gonna start browning pretty darn soon. Well, turning golden and then browning. And as you can see here, as it's getting really quiet, it's actually browning. You can see that light browning on there. We're just gonna let that get nice and crispy, but this is how you make those little threads that chefs love to use in their restaurants. And you can use this technique with lots. It's easier with leeks to use the cold oil method. Onions and shallots tend to sink to the bottom, and with those I use the two-step frying methodology. But fried leeks like this are so great for garnishing fish and seafood. Just stunning. And I'm gonna let you see some more of this color transformation. You really wanna make sure there's no softness left inside there. You also don't wanna burn them. There we go, we're almost there, maybe another 10 seconds. Look at how beautiful that is. Those are some really nice leeks. They're gonna be great with this dish. Water is boiling. I'm gonna add my rings. And just like any other type of pasta, the most important move you make with it is stirring it right after it goes in. Get some of that surface starch out, prevent sticking on the bottom, and don't walk away from it. Watch it as it comes back to a boil. Cook our pasta, and I'm gonna drain it over the half-thawed peas. And that boiling pasta water will defrost the rest of it. So, the pasta's nice and tender. The half-frozen peas are in there. So I just throw those wonderful pieces of cooked pasta on top. And I happen to have very cold water that comes out of my faucet. And so all you want to do is hydrate this with cold water. These little shells cool down, or sorry, little rings cool down super fast. I mean, this is already cold. All right, let's make our mayonnaise. I have, well, it's our sauce for this pasta dish. I have 2 small shallots, and I'm just gonna coarsely chop those and place them into this 4-cup measure. I love the taste of shallots in here. We're gonna add a whole mess of tarragon as well. These are just the leaves. I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon juice. You need a little bit of acid to start that emulsion going, not a lot. I'm gonna add, I don't know, about half a teaspoon, maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon of mustard. Then I'm gonna add a couple of egg yolks. Oh, these ones look small, which is nice, because I'm not making a lot. And you don't need a lot of egg yolk. You do for something like hollandaise, but for something like this, 2 is gonna be absolutely just perfect. And I'm just using the blade of my immersion wand to chop this up a little bit before I add my oil. I forgot to add a couple of anchovies. Now, no one in your family, trust me on this, is going to taste any of these anchovies. And the reason is we're just gonna add 2 or 3. And what it does is it just provides a little salty piquancy to this. And then laying this flat on the bottom, which is why I sort of chop it up first. I add a little drizzle of oil just to build up a little more volume in the bottom of my measure, which helps me puree those other goodies. And then I just add in a thin stream down the side, resting my oil container on the lip of the measure so that I can move my immersion wand with my other hand. I just want to make a nice emulsification here. And if you've watched me do this before, you know that with the canola oil or vegetable oil or whatever your primary oil is, it doesn't get stiffer until you have more oil in. You can actually see it getting stiffer now that I have more oil in versus when it started. And now this thin stream, this is my olive oil container. I'm adding olive oil for flavor, but I don't want it to be 100% olive oil. And like other emulsions, once the eggs and the oil are emulsified, you can add quite a bit of oil, which is why I only use 2 yolks. And you can see, I think, how thick that is. I mean, look at how that mayonnaise is clinging to the wand. And when I knock it off, you can almost see it textured on the top there. It's a nice emulsion. I want to add some mint in there. Mint and peas go together like Laurel and Hardy or Astaire and Rogers. I'm dating myself, but they're really good together. It's just another piece of contrast. I've got that antiseptic quality to the mint that is going to help soften the richness of some of this dish. We have this beautiful bowl of awesomeness just waiting for our peas and our pasta. And then we're going to add some of that fantastic mayonnaise, and I'm just going to combine this. It's basically just ham and peas and pasta. We're going to season this with salt and pepper, plate it up, garnish it with some toasted pine nuts, and we're going to be good to go. This can be part of a bigger meal if you like. Nice appropriate portion for lunch, maybe a coursed lunch. And I'm just putting a sprinkle of toasted pine nuts. I put some pine nuts in a pan and just placed them in a 325-degree oven for about 15-20 minutes. Kept an eye on them, got them nice and nutty brown. I've seasoned this with pepper. You forgot about our beautiful leeks, didn't you? And all I want to do is, I don't want to break these. I just want to pull them apart a little bit because I have enough here to garnish 2 of these plates. And there you have it. I absolutely adore this dish, and I think you're going to adore it too. Well, what's most important with anything is not how it looks, although I know this looks pretty darn beautiful. It's how it tastes. One of the best warm weather salads of any kind you can make. This one happens to have pasta, the sweet peas, the chewy saltiness of that cured ham. Use any kind of ham you want. The leeks, the citrus. This one, extraordinary. Today on Spilled Milk, we are going to make this delectable little gem. How about a roasty, toasty onion salad? Does that sound good? What if it had roasted pistachios on it? How about some toasted breadcrumbs on there? How about some herb butter? How about a sauce made with labna and feta? A little bit of Italian chili oil, peperoncino, huh? A little bit of sherry vinegar, So first thing I want to do, this is actually a small pan. It's a French roasting pan. I got it as a set from a French pan maker, and because they have smaller ovens, their pans are smaller. Refrigerators are smaller over in Europe. I actually really like those sizes. So if you see these kinds of things on Amazon, by all means, get them. I'm just putting, I don't know, teaspoon of olive oil in there. Smear that around so that none of your caramelized onion sticks there. That's number one. Next, we want to cut our oven. Why do I say ovens? The onions are going in the ovens. Anyway, huge word fart. I'm just taking the very end off of the 2 different ends of the onion, and one is flat and wide, one is flat and shallow. It does not matter. And then I'm going to cut that exactly in half. Now, from there, it certainly is a lot easier to peel this onion. There's a transparent piece right there. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it and smaller side down, I'm going to place it into my baking tray. And I'm just gonna continue to do that with as many onions as will fit in here. Now, I do that for two reasons. Number one, because the salad is extremely popular. But number two, I always have room in a dish for roasted onions or caramelized onions or whatever you wanna, however you wanna describe this dish, right? And who doesn't like a little onion sandwich? So again, I just take the two ends off and bisect this so that everything cooks the exact same amount of time, right? The point being is that they're just onions, right? These aren't lobsters. This is not some expensive ingredient. In fact, these are not even fancy onions of some type. I just ordered these on Instacart from the supermarket. Not all onions are created equal. The one kind of onion I don't use for this dish is a Vidalia onion or a sweet onion. I want one that has a lot of acidity. White onions, yellow onions, Spanish onions, right? We'll all do that. I want one that has a lot of acidity and a lot of the natural sulfuric gases that alliums like this have. And I find that Vidalia onions are just too sweet by half. So by the time you roast them, they're double sweet and they don't have that contrast in flavor. I'm gonna figure out how to make this, ooh, murmur, maybe I'll do that. This is like Tetris. It's like, you know, Tetris for onions. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, so as awkward as that looks, there I go. I've figured out a way to do it. I've got these 8 pieces. Now we season the tops and bake them. So how do we season the tops? Just a little drizzle of olive oil. Right? We got olive oil on the bottom. We're putting a little olive oil on top. I mean, this is maybe about a tablespoon and a half in total now on top of them. By using something like this with a spout, we're just putting just enough oil on there. Then I want to put my salt on there. I'm just sprinkling, this is actually some fine Mediterranean sea salt that I'm putting on here. You can use any kind of salt you like. It just happens to be what I grabbed. Pepper. Again, I just grabbed one of my pepper grinders. I can actually see the color a little bit than you can here. This is a blend of white, black, and pink peppercorns. The next thing that I want to do is I want to take some of my herb butter out of here. You know, someone asked a while ago what different types of compound butters I use. And the answer is I've got about 10 or so that I cook with pretty regularly, but none more regularly than this one. This is shallots, garlic, butter, parsley, some fiend herbs, you know, stuff like tarragon and what? Oh, sorry, Luca, none for you now. Tarragon and chives, other goodies in there. But all I'm doing is I'm just crumbling some of these butter pieces. I'm just gonna even this out onto there. And I keep them in baggies, about a 1/4 cup portion in there in the freezer. And the reason is that sometimes I have a need for a compound butter, whether I'm making garlic bread, whether I'm seasoning chickens. And the nice thing is, as these onions roast and soften, this herby garlic butter, by the way, I also have lemon zest and lemon juice in this compound butter. As the onion softens, the butter is gonna penetrate down into the tops. So this is gonna be a very, very flavorful roasted onion. And now I just wanna season these with 2 more ingredients before they get roasted. Thyme. Fresh thyme. I don't have fresh thyme in this butter mixture. And I love the flavor of onions and thyme. So I'm just going to spread, I don't know, 1 stem's worth of thyme leaves, fresh thyme leaves. By the way, fresh thyme, much different than dry thyme. There is a place for both fresh and dried herbs, but we're talking about fresh thyme here. And then the very last thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some hot honey. This is my favorite brand of hot honey, Zab's hot honey. I love Zab's hot sauce. I love everything that this company makes, but I'm just going to put a little bit of honey on each one of these. Now we are going to season this later with a little bit of vinegar and some Calabrian chili oil. But essentially we're just putting herby garlic honey butter on top of each one of these onion wedges. And then we're gonna bake it. And what's gonna happen is, as you can probably imagine, you probably figured it out already, these babies are gonna caramelize up in a way that only an oiled, buttered, seasoned, honey-topped onion can. And you tell me, would you eat those after they came out of the oven? Oh, I think you would. 375 degrees, right? That's what that says. Presto changeo. These onions go right into the center of the oven, and we'll let those cook until they're nice and caramelized, which should be, gosh, I don't know, about 25, 30 minutes at 375. We'll see, maybe 40 minutes, not much longer than that. So, lemon zest, orange zest, brined sheep's milk feta, just any good feta will do, and an equal amount of yogurt or labna. The yogurt, if you're gonna use it, use a Greek yogurt. Full fat, whole milk. Really does make a difference. Juice of half a lemon, a little more to taste. Just want it nice and tart to complement the sweetness of the onion that we're gonna roast. Voila. Boom. I've let these cool for about 45 minutes. They're still warm. I don't like to serve them refrigerated. I have made this dish and let the onions sit at room temperature for a couple of hours rather than refrigerate them before a dinner party. Remember our whipped labna and feta? I just put a dollop or so of that down into the middle of the plate. And I mean, you can do several things with this. This can be more of an appetizer, kind of first course. By the way, I've done this before in a platter where I've put the sauce down in a big oval on an oval platter and then lined all the onions up and then let people take it themselves. Or take some themselves. The other thing that you can do is you can take 2 of these, which is something I'm really keen on, I have a mortar and pestle here. This is a wooden one. I use this for a lot of softer things that I don't need to grind a lot. This is a little piece of aluminum foil. I made a little tray. I put a couple of tablespoons of shelled pistachios. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just press down with this big, fat, oh, the smell of a toasted pistachio. And I don't want to annihilate this. I'm not making, pistachio butter or anything out of there. I just want those big pieces gone, but I still want pieces big enough that I'm gonna have a crunch. Do not do this while the nuts are warm. Won't work. And I'm just gonna take a spoonful like this. It's gonna have some powdery parts. It's gonna have some crunchy parts. And this is enough probably for two. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of olives. These are French Picholines. You can use Green Lukes. You can use all kinds of olives. And I'm just slicing these up. It's got some nice bite to it, which is perfect with the sweet, beautiful onion. And I've got a whole bunch of little shards, and maybe what I'll do is I'll just sprinkle those. And as you see, I'm putting that mostly on the yogurt. I have some little bit of toasted breadcrumb here. I'm just gonna sprinkle on here. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, Andrew Zimmern, that just looks a lot of brown. Well, it is, but it's just a lot of roasty, toasty flavor. The toasted pistachios, the roasted onions. I'm just putting roasted flavor and texture, crunch, and the soft sauce and the soft olives and all the rest of that kind of stuff. I told you before, I'm gonna put a little bit of acid. This is a very nice aged sherry vinegar, and I'm just gonna dress a little bit of that. I am going to cut some parsley here. And I just need about a tablespoon of really nice, finely minced parsley. That is some nice minced parsley. And I'm just gonna throw that all over these. Delicious. And then the last thing that I'm gonna do, it's an Italian chili oil. It's made with Calabrian chilies, which are spicy, pureed with extra virgin olive oil and strained. Just the aroma of that is just absolutely spectacular. Now, I make this myself. It's just a little bit labor intensive. It's not crazy. All I do, swirl this around on top of the yogurt. And this is what it looks like. Look at how beautiful that is. I love this salad. Yes, I know, you're gonna argue with me, it's not a salad. But look at that, it just slices up so beautifully. Look at those stunning onion petals. Charred on top, soft in the bottom, streaked with that herb butter, atop a bed of labneh and feta. The sweetness from the caramelized hot honey, all of the elements of that compound butter. Oh, this is it's one of my favorite salads in the whole world. And yeah, okay, you wanna call it a vegetable side dish? Go ahead. Call it a vegetable side dish. I don't care what you call it. I want you to make it. I want you to eat it. If you have half the happiness that I have consuming this, you will be overjoyed with bliss. You won't be able to uncurl your toes. Boom! You want to make this incredible shrimp salad with shaved mango and shaved cucumber with a fantastic jaunty dressing that's absolutely going to curl your toes? I know that you do. Stick around. I'm going to show you how in just a matter of seconds. All right, so here's one of the most important things that I can teach anyone about seafood, which is how to actually peel and clean a shrimp. And I want you to watch very carefully because I'm going to do something called pee-weeing a shrimp. And Alzina Toops in Louisiana years ago saw me cleaning shrimp, and I took the top collar off and the tail here, and she said to me, "What is it with all you young cooks?" By the way, I was about 55 at the time. And she said, she was in her late 80s, early 90s, and she said, "You always talk about sustainability, but you don't leave the tail meat, the feather meat, attached to the shrimp." She says, not only is that more sustainable, obviously because you're using all of the shrimp, but it looks better too. And I was like, you know something, you're absolutely right. And ever since that day, I've pee-weed my shrimp all the time, full stop. So I'm gonna show you how to do it as well, okay? So here's what I want you to do. You just place your hands along the legs here, and you just sort of unfold that piece of shell. And then you do the same thing a little further up, and you unfold that piece of shell. And then you just make sure that you crack that top collar, this little piece of shell right at the top here, that last piece before you get to these little tail feathers. And what you do is you pee-wee them. You just one at a time, give them a little pull, and maybe I'll go down a second time, and you just gently pull, and the tail shell comes right off, right? All of it just comes right off. But look at this beautiful tail meat that's there. Do you see those pieces against my finger? Yes, Luca. Luca loves it when I clean shrimp. But isn't that nice? And then the rest of the shell, it just slides right off. Save your shells for making shrimp stock that eventually can become shrimp soup. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to cut these in half across-wise so that we have curls of shrimp. Makes it really easy to take out the vein. Now, I want to show you, I can do this in my hand. I don't want you to, but you know, we don't want to have to head over to the sink. But all I do is I just come down, I cut the shrimp in half lengthwise, and as you can see, there's two equal halves, but that vein that's right there, which is really not a vein at all, it's actually their digestive system, just comes right out, and you just pull it, and you can actually get 100% of that messy vein. Now, I like cooking with wild caught shrimp like these from a sustainable fishery, and that means there's real food in that vein that can turn your food bitter or off-tasting, and in some cases maybe little crunchy bits of shell and other food in there. So super easy, and by doing that I just get lots of halved pieces of shrimp like this that curl up in little spirals, and you'll see when I blanch them in water, which is all, it just takes 45 seconds to cook those half shrimp, even though they're very from a large shrimp, you'll see how beautiful they look. So I've let the lemons cook in the water along with a teaspoon of salt for about 10-15 minutes so that lemon water is really strong. And then I take all of my shrimp that I've halved lengthwise and I drop them into the water. And then all I do is agitate them just a little bit, count to 20. So I've already got about 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I turn it off. And I let the shrimp just sit in that 210 degree water now that it's stopped boiling for 4 or 5 minutes. They'll cook all the way through very slowly. The slower you cook a shrimp, the more tender that shrimp is going to be when you eat it. And then we'll drain those. I will not refrigerate them. They'll go right into the salad warm. First thing I want to do is show you 2 ways to deal with these cucumbers. You can take a peeler. I prefer this European style one. And all you do is make strips of that cucumber. Super, super thin. And you do that until you reach the seed pod, because we don't want that seed pod in there. Don't be afraid. Remember, this is a plant. It's not perfect. Don't be afraid of that being irregular. I also like to use my slicer. Now, this food slicer makes slicing a breeze. And as you can see here, try to do one backwards. Do you see how that is coming out there? Look at that. Absolutely perfect. I don't recommend you doing it backwards. And then I do the other side. And then I may have to go back to my peeler for this inside of the curved part. By the way, I don't throw away this part of the cucumber, because if you sprinkle a little salt on it and eat it, it's a delicious snack. Delish. And then what I want to do is I want to peel this mango. Now, this mango is ripe, but it's not soft ripe. And there's a difference, and all you mango eaters know it. I actually like that this mango has a little bit of tartness to it. So just take the skin off. I like this European peeler for this because it just takes off the outermost layer of peel. And then I'm going to use my vegetable slicer to get the rest of this off. Because what I want is I want strips of mango. And I can just keep going like this with my European peeler and create these beautiful soft sheets of mango in there. When you hit the stone in the middle of the mango, stop. And if you want to use the slicer, just be careful. Look at these beautiful pieces. All right, shallots. If you're using a slicer, don't look at the bowl, don't look at your fingers, look at the food, and then you won't cut yourself, because you can give yourself a really nasty cut. But look at how beautiful these shallots are in those paper thin rings. Next thing that I want to do is put some cilantro tops there. I've just trimmed these off the top of my bunch of cilantro. We're going to make that look really pretty. I have some fresh mint that I just pulled from the garden. I'm going to take these little tops and just stick those in there. I have a couple of them. With the larger leaves, I'm just going to stack them and roll them and just make a little chiffonade cut of these. Cut them into thin, thin, thin ribbons. You can see here how beautiful those look. And I'm just gonna sprinkle those around. Cilantro and mint work so well together. If you do not like cilantro, try it with mint. Fresno pepper. I just want to cut some Fresno pepper rings out of my Fresno pepper. And I'm going to stop before I get to the seed pod. Sometimes these are hot, sometimes they're less hot. I generically find them to be less hot than a jalapeno, but you know. Then I'm going to add some Thai basil. You know, I'm a big fan of Thai basil. I just planted a ton in the garden. I'll show you this beautiful Thai basil. It's the most aromatic of all the basils. And I'm just gonna pull some leaves off the stems and sprinkle those around. By the way, I keep my Thai basil in a cup with water, like flowers. And I take a plastic bag. The one good thing these are for is covering herbs up and putting them in the fridge. Here we go with our shrimp. See how beautiful and curly they are because I have them lengthwise? So beautiful. They turn into like little corkscrews. You know, they are obviously the centerpiece. The smell of this with the basil and the fresh shrimp is just unbelievable. And now we move on to our dressing. I'm using this product, Colatura, which is Italian fish sauce. It's from Nettuno. I get it from Gustiamo, and it is absolutely fantastic. This is a very, very light dressing. I use Meyer lemon, kind of a cross between a lemon and a tangerine for this. About an equal amount. I'm gonna add just a little bit of sugar just to counterbalance the tartness of the lemon and the colatura. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic to this, 1 clove, and I'll probably not even use, I'll probably use half a clove in just really thin slices. And I'll let that sit for those slices for like 10 minutes in that dressing. So there's so much acid between the colatura, the sugar, the lemon, and the fish sauce. All of them are acids, and it's gonna break down that garlic. So you only need a little bit, and we'll get all that flavor in there. And I'm probably gonna do the same thing. I have a piece of ginger here that I'm just gonna clean up. It's the last of a knob of ginger. And I'm gonna cut that and make thin little sticks by stacking my slices. Let me make that a little bit easier for you to see. I'm just gonna stack my slices of ginger, just like playing cards, and then line them up and just slice them really thin the other way. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put that into my dressing over here. I have my garlic chives. I'm gonna throw that in the dressing. I'm just gonna stir that up and let that sit for about 5-10 minutes, then we'll pull it all together. And last but not least, I'm gonna add maybe a half a teaspoon of liquid shiokoji, which is made from rice. It's like an umami punch. It's a little bit salty, but it's not soy sauce. It's made from rice, and it's the magic ingredient in most of Japanese cooking. And I'm just gonna drizzle like a half teaspoon in there just to wake this dressing up a little bit. Okay, I have 2 bowls here. I encourage you to put a portion down, and I'll just show you how easy and simple this really is. I love all the curves of this. Let's just get some of that mango in there. And it is okay for plates of this just to look slightly different for you. It should look random and elegant, and then all I do is drizzle liquid dressing over this and then shake a little bit of the solids over it. Here I'll do the opposite, maybe shake some solids over the top. That's that ginger and garlic chive, and then I just use my spoon. But how beautiful is that? Just elegant, stunning. Maybe, well, you know what? Let's make it a little more beautiful. Let's just make sure that you can see the seafood on top of each one. We can see everything else there. That's really stunning. And how does it taste? Luca wants some. He knows how good this is. Mango, cucumber, herbs, shrimp, spiked with chilies. Wow. I think I may eat both of these. Simple and easy Chinese chicken salad with cucumber and scallions. I mean, this to me is the apex of summertime dining. Don't believe me? Well, give me a couple minutes, watch the video, and then you be the judge, because not only does it look beautiful, but it is so darn delicious. Stick around. I want to show you how to do this. Okay, so all of our prep of our scallions, our cucumber, our sauce, our garnish is all done, and I just pulled the chicken pot off. Let me show you what happened here. As you can see, I have a beautifully poached chicken, no broken skin at all, super firm around the meat. It is gonna rest in there for another 20, 30 minutes. Then I'm gonna take it out. The broth is still hot, by the way. The broth will keep cooling. I'll strain that. You can see some of the aromatics that I put in there kind of floating around. But this broth is a golden elixir. I mean, look at that color. I'll use this now. This is, by the way, a triple stock or a triple broth by this point. I've poached so many chickens in these quarts of stock. I keep cooling them, straining them, freezing them. It's perfect now for a super rich wonton soup or anything. It's infused with ginger and Chinese aromatics. You could still use it for just about anything. I wouldn't use it for, you know, a conventional thing, but you can use it for pea soup or black bean chili or anything that you need a really rich stock for. I mean, obviously I'm very biased and I cook a lot of Asian food, but I would do any Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai soup or anything that requires a really rich stock like this. It's just absolutely fantastic. And if you strain this the right way and leave the sediment in the bottom, you can literally pour consomme out of it. So again, it's the gift that keeps on giving. You just keep poaching chicken in the same stock. By the way, 2.5 quarts of stock in a small pot like this will always leave just the crown of the chicken showing, which is perfect because that's the part, you know, I want to cook the dark meat first and foremost. That takes longer to cook and has to come to a higher temperature, which it does using this method. But it results in the most perfect butter tender, melt in your mouth chicken with no broken skin, because this skin on a nice all natural chicken, and by the way, I should stress, I started with a really nice all natural chicken, is now just, I mean, when that's sliced, cold or hot, is just gonna be so unctuous and so delicious. So we'll let this cool for a little while and then I'll transfer it into a bowl. Okay, time to transfer that chicken into that bowl. I just get a long chicken fork I call it a chicken fork because this is the fork that I use to fish all of my chickens out of pots. Sometimes the dark quarters fall off. Sometimes the dark quarters stay on. Doesn't really matter. We have to separate them for the slicing anyway. But I love this. My friend Jill Rikers made this. She's on Eating Tools. Just a beautiful fork. I have all of her, a lot of her stuff. Oh, perfect. And all that you want to do is just slowly tilt. Get all the liquid out. Look at that chicken. Get these little bits of cilantro that I put in there as well. I happen to have some lying around. But look at how perfect that poached chicken is. 100% intact, which is just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. If you had put this into simmering liquid and kept it simmering or slow boiling, or steamed it at a really, really high heat steamer, you would see the skin break. It would have contracted more. You can see it barely shrunk at all. This is just absolutely perfect, which I'm glad, because if I made this for you right now and showed you an imperfect one, you wouldn't accept my my suggestion that you try it this way. Can't wait. All right, so I separated my chicken, cooled it, and separated the pieces of the chicken. Really very simple process. And now I'm going to put a little bit of cucumber. You know, I usually serve this as a first course in a coursed meal, or I'll make preset portions of this on the table while I'm finishing a bunch of other food for the middle of the table for sort of hot entrees. If I'm making a lunch salad out of this, obviously I'll make it just a little bit bigger, but just run the cucumber down the middle there, if you will. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some scallion and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna lay it on top here because I want people to be able to eat pieces of the scallion. And once this is sort of balanced in there, you just go ahead and lay those pieces on. It's never gonna be exactly perfect, but you can get it pretty nicely done. I'm reserving that pretty, I'm reserving this pretty scallion stuff for later. Oh, I should crunch up some of my toasted peanuts. I already have my golden, look at how beautiful those turned out, huh? Those beautiful golden sesame seeds. I've already got that set aside. I use a wooden mortar and pestle for nuts. I find that my stone or ceramic mortar and pestles with big, heavy pestles tend to just really smash the heck out of my nuts. There we go. Set that aside and we'll get a little spoon going for that. Here I have the breast. I can show you how to do it with the dark quarters as well. I just find where I pulled this out. There's gonna be a lot of leftover meat for some other kind of chicken salad, but I just let my knife fall to one side of that bone. The wishbone is what we bump into there, and I just finish the cut here and come all the way down till I find that breast bone. I just feather my knife. I'm doing this with a kitchen knife, a chef's knife of all things. But I have that beautiful breast that came off there. It's devoid. There's no bone in here at all, but I always like to double check. The other piece of chicken will have a piece of wishbone in there, unless I'm really, really good about cutting it. And you'll know, you have this beautiful, beautiful skin. So all I do is I want to make sure that I have that beautiful skin with each piece. And by the way, this chicken is a stunner of a chicken from the farmer's market. And you can see here it's cooked all the way through. That little redness there, that pink, is because it actually walked around and had a real life. This chicken is 100% juicy, moist, melt in your mouth, but it's also 100% food safe. And all I'm going to do is I'm just gonna place my chicken slices attractively across the top of that. There, it's a very nice portion for, well, it's a healthy portion for a first course. With the dark quarter, it's a whole different ball game. I do the same thing that I do with regular raw chicken. I can see that line there that if I just put my knife through it will separate my leg from my dark quarter. Put my leg back in the bowl. Take out some of these bones that are here. Eventually we're going to get rid of all of them. And it's so easy once you've cooled this down to remove those bones, remove any piece of cartilage. This right here, that's the oyster, the most tender bone of them all. And I can see I've got one end of the bone there, right? And I've got the other end of the bone right there. I can see it. So all I want to do is run my knife down the end to end, and slowly with my fingers lift out this piece of cartilage and this bone. Now, remember, always feel the end to see if there's another piece of cartilage there. There usually is. Cartilage doesn't lift out very nicely. This bone is done here. Got a little bit of meat here. I don't like to waste anything, but there is that thigh bone. Very simple to lift out. Now I have all these little bits of dark meat that fell off there, but look at what I have when I turn this around. Looks a lot nicer, right? So what I want to do, and this is what I do with the dark meat, is I just put all those tender little pieces right on top, and then I'm going to put my sliced pieces of thigh and by all means, use your knife to lift that up and then put those on top there of your cucumber scallion mixture. You can lean that little piece in. Don't get into analysis paralysis, no need to. It's never gonna look the same as the white meat. I'm gonna wash my hands and I'm gonna show you how we finish these. All right, you can probably make about 6 or 8 portions like this out of each chicken. I put a tablespoon or 2 of dressing on top of that. It is strong. So you don't need a lot. And I do get into analysis paralysis about these little drops because I want to make sure that we're nice and neat with that. Then the next thing that I want to do is I want to take a spoon and get that nice mixture of both chunky, the dog keeps going after my cutting boards, of both chunky and dusty peanuts, and just put that over the top. great textural crunch. Then I want to take some of these golden sesame seeds. The flavor as you bite down into those sesame seeds is great. So I put a generous pinch on top of that, and then that scallion on top. Now, if you want to make this an even bigger plate, but use the same amount of veg and protein, get some Chinese noodles or other kind of Asian noodle, cook them, rinse them under cold water, and put that underneath there, and you can make sort of a noodle bowl out of that as well. But that, my friends, is succulent poached chicken with scallion, cucumber, and that incredibly addictive sesame paste and Szechuan peppercorn dressing. Heaven. Summer food does not get any better than that. Let me tell you something. It is delicious. Now here's the deal. If you think Chinese chicken salads or chicken salads of any type tend to be dry with chicken meat, yeah, then someone's not cooking it right for you, because with my simple poached chicken hack, you are gonna come out with the silkiest, most delicious, moist chicken, regardless of whether it's white meat or dark meat, and with that sesame vinaigrette and those scallions and cucumbers. That is the apex of summertime dining. I insist you make this. Trust me, it's gonna be in your repertoire very soon. Crispy pot sticker salad that is crazy good with that spicy ginger dressing. That's what's for dinner, kids. Get on that. So ironically, a great dumpling salad starts with the salad. So I'm building two different bowls here. One is going to be my dressing. One is going to be my salad that is going to get tossed, dressed, and the dumplings are going to go on top of that. So I started with a big bowl. You can use whatever greens you like. I put in some beautiful watercress that was in our market. I love watercress because it's got a nice spicy greens flavor. I then have some cilantro from the garden, and I'm literally just cutting whole stems of that. And the reason is because all of this young cilantro from the garden, those tiny little stems are really digestible and delicious. And in a salad, I mean, it just reeks now. I'm gonna get some mint from outside. I'll probably use the stems of my cilantro in my dressing. I've got some cherry tomatoes from the garden. I just cut them in half. Aren't these beautiful? I love those little cherry tomatoes that are tinged like plums with that nice little dark section. So I'm gonna throw those in. I'm gonna julienne some romaine. I like romaine because it gives good texture to the salad. I'm just removing a bruised outer leaf, and I'm just gonna cut that into chiffonade. Nice and thin. Cucumber, don't cut your fingers. And the best way to do that is not to look at your fingers and not to look at the blade. Look at what you're slicing. And here I've got beautiful slices of cucumbers, and those will go in our bowl. I wanna put some alliums in here. I've got garlic going into the sauce. I wanna put these scallions, I'm just gonna cut them at a pretty nice 45-degree angle. Dressing, I have a bowl. It's got those cilantro stems in there. I'm gonna add some lime juice. The juice of one lime. It's probably about three tablespoons probably. And I'm gonna add some fish sauce. I'm going with a Southeast Asian inspired salad with the Chinese dumplings on top. And I'm gonna add about as much fish sauce as I have lime juice. I'm gonna microplane some garlic. I mean, just couldn't be more of an ideal place to use some microplaned garlic. A little bit of vinegar, so I'm going to use some Chinese black vinegar. This is Baoning 10-year-old. I love to use it. I get it at the Mala market. A little bit of toasted sesame oil, not much, just maybe like a tablespoon or so. I've got some chili crisp here. This one I also happen to get at the Mala market. I've got 2 tablespoons of that I'll put in there. A little bit of sugar to taste. I start out with about a tablespoon, maybe tablespoon and a half. And then I'm tasting it, and I want to taste it in balance with the lime juice and the fish sauce, but you got to make sure to stir and dissolve it. I'm just dragging my spoon along the bottom. Remember, the oils go to the top, right? So the stuff the sugar's going to dissolve in is on the bottom. And then, since the only thing we're going to add to this is some ginger, it's as good a time as any to taste it. Almost perfect. Another teaspoon or so of sugar. Superb. And the last thing that I want to do is I've peeled some ginger, and I'm just going to cut it in thin slices. And then I'm going to come back at it the other way. Make very thin sticks. And then turn that around. Because I actually want people to bite down on tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces of ginger. So I don't want to pass it through a grater. I just want to make these as small as possible, and that is a perfect job of that. And I'm going to put that into the dressing, because all that dressing is going to go on there. Okay, so let's taste this one more time. But this time I'm really stirring well so that I taste the oils, the sugar, the lime juice, the fish sauce, all those herbs, the ginger and garlic. Ooh, banging. So 2 things that I'm going to add in here that I don't see a lot of these days in this sort of viral recipe sensation for these dumpling salads. Toasted rice powder. It's a Vietnamese product. It's also a Thai product. It's used in a couple other Southeast Asian cultures as well, but less so. And it's literally toasted rice, frequently toasted glutinous or sweet rice, just toasted in a little pan in the oven and then ground. You can buy a fistful of it for about $1.99 at any Asian market. And it is the defining flavor in Thai dishes like larb and a lot of other Thai salads. Anytime I make an Asian salad, I put a tablespoon or so in there. It gives an unmistakable flavor and texture to salads. The other thing are these wonderful little crispy wonton noodles. I want some texture in there, and I want that flavor that only a wonton noodle will give. So that's in there as well. It also soaks up a little bit of that dressing, as will the dumpling. This is not dressed yet. I'm just piling this in there. So now my salad is done, my dressing is done, so now we can take care of the dumplings. All right, so we're gonna stick a link for my dumpling recipe. I'm doing them pot sticker style. These are ones that I had in the freezer myself. Some of them have gotten a little misshapen, but that's fine. They will work. And this is just out of habit. I'm kind of arranging them like so, because I'm not gonna put a skirt on them, which is how I frequently serve pot stickers. I just wanna fry up enough what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Definitely want 12 in there. And we're just gonna let those start to cook. These are pork and leek dumplings. Whenever I make dumplings, like I always tell you, I make way more than I need and I freeze them. And all I'm going to do is let them get nice and brown on the bottom, pour a little water in, cover it with my lid, and when the water is evaporated, they should get brown again. So it's been about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, and they're starting to brown. So that's when we're ready to add some water. And the lid. And sort of let them high pressure steam in there. That will take care of any frozen aspect to the inside of those dumplings. And then when it quiets down and we're just sizzling again, that's how I will know when they are done. It's about 2 minutes later, and my dumplings look beautiful. Touch the sides, make sure they are nicely cooked, which I'm sure they are. They feel beautiful. And when I say cooked, I mean cooked through. As you can see, we have our brown bottoms on there. Some a little browner than others, depending on where they touched during this process. Some people, for this salad, like to turn all of the dumplings on their side. And the reason that I like to do this is because that way I have another bit of texture on the dumpling, right? I'm actually going to get some crisping on 2 different sides of the dumpling. Okay. Salad, salad, salad. Come over here with my pot stickers. This is so, so, so yummy. It is the best, to me, one of the best aspects of cooking that I know of, which is to combine 2 things that we eat together anyway. The dressing. That is a beautiful fried dumpling salad. Pot sticker dumpling salad, call it what you want. I call it delicious. And how does it taste? Oh my gosh. Sour, salty, bitter, sweet, cold, hot, juicy, crunchy. All of those different contrasts are insane. The meaty pop of those pot stickers with all of those cold and spicy elements in there, there's absolutely nothing better. Clean out the fridge, get those pot stickers going, put everything out of that fridge into that salad bowl, make that spicy dressing and get on this.